Hi, I'm Kit. I recently bought the SDVX Lite free from YuanCon, and I'm doing a review on it because not really anyone has really done any reviews on this controller. I don't get this controller with basic YuanCon buttons. You can get it with SAMA buttons, but this adds on like another $145. I also ended up getting this controller from the United Kingdom, so it's a bit of a hassle. It ended up coming up to around, like, I'd say around like $160 around, including shipping. Without the shipping, it's around $138. Depending on the country you're in, your shipping costs will vary. You can find this in the shipping tab to add onto your price. Okay, here's to start off. Who even is YuanCon? So if you haven't really been in the arcade rhythm game community for probably enough to know about the controllers, then yeah, you won't really know who YuanCon is. YuanCon is a controller creator based in China. Similar to controllers like Gamo2 makes, he makes controllers for games like SDVX, Speedmania. He recently made a tuning them controller, so that's quite neat too. I have in the past heard a lot of talk about YuanCon's controllers, and I've heard nothing but good. And I think I would say the same, really, because these controllers are actually really decent. At least this one I've been using for a while anyway. So the connectivity is USB-C, of course. So if you have any others lying around, you just use that if you lose this one. Also, you can change the lights at the top. You can have it to be rainbow. You can have it to be just normal blue pink, or you can have it to animate when you use your lasers. You can also change the colors too, so that's quite neat. I think the controller itself actually sounds really nice. I think it does quite good with the stock switches. So here's a sound test to get an idea of how it sounds. Well then, how well does it even work in gameplay? Well, the controller actually works really well. I've played with this like as soon as I got it. I've had this for like almost like a week now, and I'm consistently still clearing 17s and some 18s as if I'm playing on cabinet, and it feels great. However, the buttons do tend to get squeaky sometimes. But if you want some more reference, here's some gameplay with me using it on some SDVX charts on USC.
Wow.
Well then, how was the shipping? The shipping kind of wasn't really all that great. He decided to use UPS rather than any other service, but it's not really that big of a deal. My issue wasn't really just trying to have it deal with the UPS service themselves, but more so just having to deal with the customs of it. This gave me issues such as having to wait like a week just for have it stuck in warehouse, and with UPS's weird tracking system it got kind of a headache. An example of this is going onto the UPS tracking site to check that it was on warehouse, which I then checked again another few days to say that it's departed, to then check again to say that it's in the warehouse again. But aside from that, I did eventually get it in the end, and it's kinda goofy the image that they sent me. That's my shoe. Okay, but what are the pros and cons of this controller? So, I know I've been basically talking nothing but good about this thing. So, the pro and con that we're getting to first is that it's actually really cheap for a controller. So, as I said, it is a really cheap controller and you have to deal with UPS, but it is definitely worth it to get if you are on a budget. Another thing is with it being cheap is that the whole build of it isn't really going to be like incredible. This is kind of a normal thing that goes down with the price area of like quality over affordability. This is kind of like a normal thing. You're getting what you pay for and it's definitely worth it. I would say that the quality is quite a bit better than what you pay for, but it is not going to be like incredible. As I've also previously stated, the problem that I tend to have is the whole issue with the whole like switches rubbing against the end and being all squeaky with the spring. Although I've done a lot of like searching on the YuanCon server about this, and people have said that lubricating the switches around the springs, I think, can actually help like really well with that. Hey, editor here. Just saying, I know you can tell that I added on an extra point at the end of that. That's because that's something I genuinely missed out from this whole video that I should have mentioned at the very start. Now, for the last point here, would I say that I would get this controller? You know what? Yeah, I think it's worth it to get. In terms of quality and gameplay, it works really well. It has done me like wonders for the fucking week past, and if you're on a budget, I would love to say get it. Honestly, if you're looking for a SDVX controller and you're on a budget, get it. It is so worth it, and I just want to say that like this is probably like a really good budget controller that I would suggest to people who can't really afford anything like the Force 2 or anything and don't really want to go to a mini SDVX controller.